Hi, I'm Link. I am a professional options and futures trader, and this is my daily watch list for the 8th of April 2025. So let's get right into it. Quick recap of what happened yesterday. Obviously, yesterday, the Black Monday, massive gap down. Then Trump allegedly wanting to postpone tariffs. Wasn't actually true, but nonetheless, the market was able to make some upside momentum. Right now, the market's higher in pre-market. So we're opening up around here, which means that pullback strongs of these lows, which are the carry trade lows, are really strong. Before that, rejections of that were really big on the table, but now that we've moved above it, it doesn't seem that strong anymore. Fails back below with lower highs could lead to more downside here, but other than that, pullback holds are the name of the game. Above this is also a strong rejection zone of these lows of the carry trade lows. So also watch out above, which becomes more apparent on the Qs. Qs above here, moving into this really strong zone. Again, these carry trade lows really. But again, pullback holds into the proper carry trade lows could also lead to a bounce upside here on the QQQ NASDAQ. One thing just quickly that I'm looking at as well is Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's been able to recover really well since yesterday, and it's really quickly approaching this massive retest zone of the previous all-time high that we had all the way over here, which I think can become really interesting to already start to scale in. But I also think there's a lot of rejection potential above here for the lower high continuation. So I would want to see high low first before becoming more interested in this. But I do think this has some upside potential if it can hold. Next, gold. I think gold is setting up really nice short right now. As you can see, it's already starting to work out here. If you're going down to lower time frames, you made a really nice 5-minute lower high here. But you could also wait for the proper trend switch here, maybe on the 30. As it's rejecting these range lows from Monday session, which then pre-market sold off, now made back some moves overnight. But I think a trend switch here can become really interesting on gold futures as well. So let's move into some stocks. Microsoft is setting up really nice for this break and retest that I was looking for yesterday as well. I would want to see these lows starting to reject here and then see the trend switch for the continuation lower. If you go on the 4-hour, it also, I think just generally looking at this is just the bottom of the range over here, as well as this zone above, which I think is also still really strong. So even if we move back above these lows, I think these lows can still reject as well on there. So I want to definitely watch this, but an early rejection would be nice off the gate, which also would align with the idea of seeing a little bit of a pullback first. Google, I was looking for the rejection yesterday here, never got it. Now it's back above these lows here and back above these highs. So any pullback holds here, I think can lead to bounce, which then again, I would get really careful around this zone for the break and retest. But I do think that until then, there is a little bit of a bounce potential here. If we can also get it back above these Thursday highs here on the reaction. So I think Google is an interesting long setup if it does develop. Quickly fails back below. I don't think are interesting at this current moment. So just keep that in mind. Affirm is also setting up for a potential long here. Though if the setup's not that clean, then I would rather wait for the rejection of these lows on the retest. It's just generally the idea of if the market bounces, this could hold as well. Felt back below though, thinking about it like this, fails to hold lower high sell off. I think are really, really strong for the short, which is why I still have this on here. Longs, I'm not too sure about out of this name. Morgan Stanley, I think can be interesting here if we do move higher to start to reject these lows. Any pullback holds into this area of this clear recent highs could be dangerous for a hold. But if we then once again were to say we fail to hold them and then reject back lower, I think that's ultimate confirmation to short this. Since again, I think these lows are really strong, and even though the market is generally giving a few long setups, I don't think this is a sustainable bounce, at least not for now. At least not until it actually makes a proper higher low here. Snowflake, as I said, the spreads aren't the greatest on this, but as I also said yesterday, recaptures of these highs for the bounce could be interesting. So any pullbacks that hold into here, any pullbacks that hold these highs somehow for the bounce higher. This low, I think, is still a bit dangerous. And then again, completely risk off going into this area and the 200 daily, as again, these are the clear rejection areas with across market. This is what I was talking about yesterday as well, with a lot of these bounces that could happen, which I would then do to try to fade. And that's exactly what's setting up right now. The bounce after the overreaction on Monday, as I said yesterday, would likely be the case. Nvidia, I think Nvidia is showing some massive strength. I mean, from the lows to the highs, it rose 16% yesterday. But you do have to remember that it's going into recent lows, with this being a nice area, but this being even stronger on the daily. If you look at it, you can see here clear rejection on the wick on that Thursday session, clear recent lows. So I think both areas are strong, with the 105 area being even a bit stronger here for potential rejection lower. And then 99 is going to be interesting on a retest. But if we just, I could imagine we just fell back straight below, not even trying to hold that area if the market is not staying that strong. 96, again, 96 is also a bit dangerous here, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. Also maybe an idea for like long-term ads if we do make the high low here on the pullback, by the way. Hood is back above these lows, which again is similar to a firm where you could fail back below here for the downside move, or try to hold these highs on the retest, or these lows back inside on the retest for the bounce higher. But then again, watching out for potential rejections above. The recaptures of this area could actually become really interesting. I do believe so. You always got to remember, heightened volatility means heightened risk, but also heightened reward. But that doesn't mean that you should firm into stuff. I do think pullback holds on Avgo, on Broadcom, can become interesting here, moving back inside of this low. Though I do think that this zone above could reject, though I don't think it's the strongest bit. So if there's some nice setups that can hold any pullbacks here above these lows and above these highs, maybe something for some upside here, as really, unlike other names in the market, Avgo doesn't have the strongest break and retest in my opinion, which is why I think that longs of this level could actually be pretty decent for the upside continuation. So that's something to watch out for. Marvell, it's just a pretty clean range here, where the idea is breaking out of the total range like it is now, holding any pullbacks, breaking out, holding any pullbacks for the move higher. Be careful about these lows though. Be careful about these lows. I think both of them are pretty strong rejection levels that could hold pretty nicely, or reject pretty nicely. Same kind of idea with City, moving back above this range, these range highs for the bounce of these lows. Again, risk off is the name of the game going into that area though. But if the market is strong, I think there's some nice upside to be had in City, which is always a very strong name generally, and moves nicely with the market as well, by the way. I think City's, next to Morgan Stanley, is one of the nicest banking stocks to trade actually. Amazon is pretty nice here. Again, for the pullback hold. Above, it's super short. I think these are some very, very strong lows here. As you can see, it's been rejecting pretty nicely off that level. And then also here on the Thursday session, once again, just wicking above to fail the pullback. So I do think we could struggle around here for pullback into 177, at which point I do actually think this is pretty long if you manage to move back below to that area, especially as we're now opening above. It was setting up not potential for the short, but if we're opening it back above, I think the reversal of that area seems pretty nice. Lastly, for the active watches is Roku, where it's moving into these lows. So you could see a rejection, though I don't think fails back right now. And rejections of these lows are that interesting because of the chop that we have been seeing here. But I do think recaptures could lead to the further bounce into the zone. Similar idea, just recapturing these old lows. With a strong market, I do think that could become something that's worth watching for sure, but not as strong as the other setups potentially. Palantir, I just want to see if it can hold these lows on the retest. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of trading Palantir actually. I do think it's super choppy in this area, as you can see right here. But if the setup is there and it's developing nicely, I do think it's worth a shot. Disney, my bad. Disney is actually moving into these lows that I was looking for it to reject, that stem from all the way over here where we just got this aggressive push off it. after kind of retesting this ascending triangle over here. So we could see some rejections happen here, but then again, I think a trend switch could actually be likely on Disney here. So got to watch out for that. Again, it's not the strongest there, which is why I only have it on like a watch, not really wanting to trade it right now. Similar idea with Shopify. I don't really like the long ideas out of this, so probably just want to wait for the move higher for the retest rejection of these super strong lows for the break and retest. Just want to know about it though. Walmart actually saw some really strong strength now off the open. Started to reject these lows here and it's set up pretty nicely for the reversal low actually, but now that's opening up higher. I do think this zone can still reject, but otherwise falls back below these lows for the sell continuation could be interesting. PayPal, I was looking for maybe a trend switch into bounce higher here, as it's holding this pretty strong support area. So again, the bounce higher could be likely here. I would need some trend switch pullback also, for sure. Oracle is obviously setting up super nice for the break and retest right now, opening up higher though, which means fails back below for the lower high continuation on the weekday, or have bounced further into these stronger lows for the proper break and retest on the daily, are both interesting here and worth watching for sure. Apple, I just want to have on here because Apple is a quite significant stock. Not a fan of trading it though, as I said yesterday. It's setting up a pretty nice, look at it, a pretty nice pennant here though, where a breakout and the retest on the hold on a retest could become interesting for some upside momentum if it's able to break through these lows right here. And then we could see the bounce into the previous all-time high, which then again I do think could reject in the coming days. Visa, same idea, could see the rejection of the all-time high right now, but do need a trend switch before. I think Tesla actually looks pretty decent on the break and retest setup here. If you look at the higher time frames, it is a zone that could be rejecting again as it did yesterday on this news reaction. So I do think there's general weakness to come in Tesla if you look at the higher time frames. So that's something to keep in mind. And Qualcomm I just have on here. Obviously, the main idea is this massive break and retest of these big lows on the higher time frames. But there could be some short bounce setting up here. I do think this is setting up a pretty nice hourly higher low, which makes this an interesting stock to trade. But the spread on this is unfortunately usually quite bad. So I would need some more confirmation out of this, which is why I still have it on here, but not really looking at it too deeply. So that was my daily watch list. These are the things that I'm watching for the 8th of April 2025. And then we'll probably either see each other again later tonight, reviewing some of the trades that I potentially took, or again for another daily or weekly watch list video in the coming days. If you liked it, please do like the video, subscribe, and I hope you can trade well off this and stay safe out there. STG.